has failed to disclose to parents cases where teachers at their children's schools have been convicted of sex offences. Tonight, we can reveal 8 specific instances where Ofsted reports did not mention that teaching staff had either been convicted or were awaiting trial for sexual offences against pupils. One senior MP said tonight the revelations raised the question of whether Ofsted is any longer fit for purpose. In the second film in our series on the problems facing Britain's children, our Home Affairs correspondent Andy Davis reports now on a parent's right to know.
Every year in England, Channel 4 News has learned around 200 teachers are struck off the teaching register, but no one will disclose how many for sexual offences against pupils. Ofsted, the school's inspectorate, should know, but this is a subject, as we've found, it often tends to keep quiet on. In fact, this is an inspectorate with a duty to look at how schools keep children safe, but Channel 4 News has discovered that even when Ofsted learns of teachers being convicted of sex offences against children, including rape, in many cases, it doesn't even mention the issue in its reports.
Parents would expect to get this information in an Ofsted report. It seems to me totally regrettable that this isn't occurring.
Tonight, one headmaster says parents deserve a system where there's far greater scrutiny of how schools investigate allegations of sexual misconduct.
If when Ofsted come in they don't check this, then clearly their child or children in school safety is compromised.
Bridlington, on the northeast coast of England. It was here in this Yorkshire seaport that a comprehensive school was hit by scandal after scandal involving staff members grooming pupils for sex. All had worked at Headland School. Ian Blott, an art teacher, was the first to be jailed in 2006 for 4 years. Stephen Edwards, who had sex with 3 girls, one of whom was barely 14, was jailed in 2007. Another teacher, Terry Mann, would be convicted a year later for similar offences. At Headlands, concluded a local authority report, there'd been repeated safeguarding failures. So by May 2008, 3 members of staff have been convicted, and a report has concluded that over a 13-year period there have been persistent failures to protect the pupils here. Ofsted publishes the findings of its latest inspection. There's no mention of any previous problems with safeguarding. It simply says the procedures for the safeguarding of students meet national requirements. 2 months later, Christopher Reen, a 31-year-old classroom assistant at Headlands, would begin a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old pupil. Her mother just cannot comprehend Ofsted's silence on the school's previous child protection failures.
My daughter was too young to cope with it. It caused a lot of stress within the family. The impact of what's happened, it saw the end of my marriage. It's been all-consuming, really. I think if they'd have been regularly reporting on safeguarding issues and had been honest about what had happened in the past, then things would have been better for my daughter, and maybe it wouldn't have happened.
Reen was jailed earlier this year. In the last 2 years, Ofsted have completed a further 5 inspections of Headlands. And once again, there's not a single reference to any of the previous child protection problems or how the school had handled them. As for the role Ofsted itself played in all of this, well, they said they couldn't discuss it.
It's very difficult to talk about individual cases.
Why?
There are obviously legal implications sometimes of talking about an individual case.
We don't believe there are in this case.
One of the main reasons for not talking about an individual case is that it can often be traced back to the young people who were, if you like, the subject of abuse.
The politician who for the last decade has chaired the parliamentary committee scrutinising the work of Ofsted now wants this issue investigated. You didn't know about this?
I didn't know about this, no. I assumed, perhaps naively, that this was automatically part of an Ofsted report.
The fact that it isn't, that should be ringing alarm bells, shouldn't it?
Absolutely, I'm astonished. And schools very rarely have these sorts of incidents, but when there is a series of them, when it's almost seen as some sort of subculture here of abuse of children, then that should have been reflected in the Ofsted report.
Headlands is not the only case in which sexual crimes committed against pupils have failed to materialise in Ofsted's reports. In 2005, a teacher at this special needs school in Buckinghamshire, Anthony Bully, pleaded guilty to 6 counts of rape and sexual assault against 4 boys. Ofsted published its next report in 2007, lauding the school's child protection procedures as exemplary. Not a word on the major child protection failure which had occurred here since the previous Ofsted inspection. Both Stony Dean and Headlands in Yorkshire have stated that their current safeguarding arrangements are much more secure than in the past. Other cases we've discovered include that of a teacher in Birmingham jailed last year for having sex with a pupil. Ofsted's report 2 months later didn't mention it. It just said requirements for the safeguarding of students are robust. In Keighley in Yorkshire in 2005, a teacher who subjected a boy to years of sexual abuse was jailed for 3 years. In the subsequent Ofsted report in 2008, there's no reference to it. We found other similar cases across the country.
I suspect that we've been going through some pretty hard times with Ofsted at the moment. You know, it's grown fast, it's grown to be a very big inspectorate, and it's time, I think, it's assessed very carefully by government, by the department, to assess it if it's fit for purpose.
Ofsted's explanation for all of this is straightforward. They actually have a policy, they told us, not to mention these cases in their reports when it's clear to them that appropriate action has been taken to make the school in question safe. As a parent, having access to a school's track record on child protection matters is of paramount importance, isn't it?
Absolutely. We clearly understand why parents are both concerned and need to be reassured that when their child attends an individual school, that child is attending a safe school.
But you're not putting this information about previous problems at any of these schools into the public domain in your reports. You're just not mentioning them at all. Now, how can parents trust these reports if they are not being given a full picture of a school's track record on child protection?
The inspection report should make the clear judgment, and does make the clear judgment now, that the school has effective safeguarding procedures in place, and that should be the reassurance to parents.
So it's policy not to report many of these types of cases, claim Ofsted, but others fear a more alarming reason for some omissions. That is that Ofsted's inspectors, astonishingly, haven't always been aware the offences happened in the first place. One headmaster who asked not to be identified told us that he once informed the Independent Safeguarding Authority that he'd sacked a teacher over a suspect relationship with a pupil. But when Ofsted came to inspect, they knew nothing of the case.
When Ofsted came into the school, they didn't know that there had been a referral from the school to the Safeguarding Authority. And when I raised the matter with them, again, it wasn't an issue which was to be the subject of their inspection.
There have been recent improvements to safeguarding checks in schools, and Ofsted will now automatically be informed every time a teacher who's considered a threat to a child is struck off. But some argue that major gaps still remain. This document, obtained by Channel4 News, names all the teachers in England who've not been struck off but disciplined, in one case for communicating in a sexual manner with pupils, and in another for videoing a pupil having sex in his bedroom. The school automatically informs the local authority when this type of incident takes place, but not Ofsted. And that increases the risks, say some, that such incidents are missed in an inspection.
I think parents want to know that their children are safe, and when allegations come to light, a school that's demonstrated and validated by Ofsted to rigorously investigate such circumstances and take robust management action, I think that's exactly what parents are looking for.
Ofsted says keeping children safe is an absolute priority for the inspectorate. But Ofsted's marked silence on some severe cases of child protection failures in schools raises questions about just how much it really knows about the problem, and when it does find out, how much of a duty it has to tell others.
And if you're affected by any of the issues raised in Andy Davis's report, you can find further details of organisations which can help on our website at channel4.com/news. We're back tomorrow at 7. Until